Amara Cole had never sought the spotlight. Though a tech mogul whose innovations were transforming industries, she lived far from the public eye. Her wealth, though vast, wasn't something she flaunted. Instead, she used it to fund schools, healthcare initiatives, and affordable housing in underprivileged neighborhoods. To her, her fortune was a tool, nothing more, nothing less. But that Saturday morning, as she stepped into a modest supermarket in Palo Alto, California, all that changed. Dressed in a gray pantsuit, understated yet elegant, she strolled through the aisles, an air of quiet confidence about her. Her usual entourage, her bodyguards, her assistants, all conspicuously absent. She didn't drive her sleek Tesla but borrowed a family car from her assistant, hoping to blend in with the crowd. For a moment, she felt human again, just another shopper, picking up a few essentials. A bottle of olive oil here, a box of oatmeal there. The mundane rhythm of her actions was soothing, grounding her. A group of teenagers passed by, none of them giving her a second glance. An older couple bickered over cereal, and for once, Amara wasn't the subject of conversation. Then, without warning, an alarm screamed through the store, snapping her out of her reverie. She glanced around, confusion flaring in her chest. The store was quiet, but the unease was palpable. A security guard approached her, his eyes narrowed in suspicion. "Ma'am, I need you to step aside," he said, his tone sharp. "Is there a problem?" Amara asked, her voice calm, but her brow furrowed in confusion. The guard's gaze shifted to the bottle of olive oil in her cart. "You didn't scan that," he declared, loud enough for others to hear. Amara blinked. "I haven't even reached the checkout yet," she replied. "I was planning to scan everything at the self-checkout." But the guard wasn't listening. He quickly called for backup. Within moments, 2 more staff members arrived. And then, just like that, the situation spiraled out of control. The store was buzzing with whispers, murmurs about her, about the woman who seemed so out of place. She wasn't just another shopper anymore. No, now she was a spectacle. Amara had lived through tougher situations, boardrooms filled with skeptical investors, late-night negotiations, the complexities of philanthropy, but nothing had prepared her for this. For this moment of intense, public scrutiny. The crowd continued to gather, their eyes filled with judgment. "Entitled," she heard someone mutter. Others exchanged knowing glances. As the employees grew more insistent, her heart rate spiked. The irony of it all struck her. A woman who had poured millions into the community was being accused of shoplifting over an $11 bottle of olive oil. Just then, the police arrived. Transition to police involvement and escalation. Amara stood, her posture straight, a picture of calm defiance as 2 officers walked toward her. She knew the drill. She had faced injustice before, but never quite like this. They asked her to step outside. "Ma'am, we've received a report of shoplifting. Please come with us." Her pulse quickened, but she held her ground. "I haven't done anything wrong," she said firmly. "This is a misunderstanding." The officer, tall, stern, gestured for her to comply. As they guided her toward the parking lot, the whispers grew louder. Eyes followed her every move. She could feel the judgment in the air. But Amara kept her head high. She wasn't just thinking about herself, she was thinking about the countless others who had been treated like this, people whose stories were never heard, whose voices were silenced. In the parking lot, the store manager, his earlier accusations now amplified by the presence of the officers, greeted them with renewed confidence. "We caught her red-handed," he declared. "She refused to cooperate. It's all on the security footage." Amara met his eyes, unflinching. "I didn't refuse to cooperate. I was simply explaining the situation." But her words fell on deaf ears. Building toward transformation. Once in the patrol car, handcuffed, Amara stared out the window. She could see the young woman who had filmed the incident, still recording from the parking lot. A sense of gratitude washed over her. Someone was documenting this. Someone was seeing what was happening. The ride to the police station was silent. But her mind wasn't. It raced through everything, her accomplishments, her philanthropic work, and now, this. Being treated like a criminal, over something so trivial. When they arrived at the station, the officers led her through the sterile, cold halls to a small room. Amara sat, her hands still cuffed in front of her, feeling the absurdity of it all. The younger officer glanced at her nervously, but the older one was unmoved. She was left alone in the room for what felt like hours. And in that stillness, a thought echoed in her mind: this wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who'd been wrongfully accused, who had been mistreated because of who they were or how they looked. Resolution and moving forward. When the officers finally returned, they had reviewed the footage. The mistake was clear. Amara hadn't stolen anything. They apologized for the misunderstanding, but the damage had already been done. Standing in the small room, Amara exhaled slowly, her voice cutting through the thick tension. "This isn't over," she said, her words not just aimed at them, but at everyone who had ever been unjustly treated. "Not for me, and not for anyone else who has gone through this." And that's when the ripple started. Amara's name began circulating across the media. The video of her arrest, posted by the young woman in the parking lot, spread like wildfire. It wasn't just about the humiliation of a billionaire, it was a story that people could relate to. A story of bias, of systemic injustice, of assumptions made without thought. The hashtags #JusticeForAmara and #BiasInAction began trending. Stories poured in, ordinary people sharing their experiences of being judged based on assumptions. For Amara, the response was overwhelming. But more than that, it was a sign. This wasn't just about one woman, or one incident. It was about a larger conversation. She quickly issued a statement: "This isn't just about me. It's about addressing systemic biases that harm countless individuals every day. I plan to take action, not just for myself, but for everyone whose voice is often silenced." Final call to action, a lasting legacy. Weeks passed, and the response grew. Donors rallied behind her new initiative, Project Equity, aimed at addressing implicit bias in retail, law enforcement, and beyond. Amara's story wasn't just a cautionary tale. It was a call to action. But perhaps the most profound moment came when she sat down with Tasha, the young woman who had recorded the incident. Over coffee, Tasha explained how she hadn't realized the impact of her actions at the time. "I just knew something wasn't right," she said. "I never imagined it would turn into something this big." Amara smiled. Sometimes the smallest actions create the biggest ripples. And so, Project Equity grew. Schools, businesses, and communities began to embrace the program. Amara's name became synonymous with more than just technology, it was a symbol of change. Through it all, Amara never sought to take credit. She was determined that this movement, this conversation, would live on long after the headlines faded. Because real change doesn't start in courtrooms or boardrooms, it starts in the choices we make every day, in the actions we take, and in the voices we lift up.